second so I can get this on video. Okay, so we don't have any major market reports today. We do have most of Europe. The banks are actually closed today. So we could see a little bit more slow movement than normal. Also, what I wanted to do, because I don't show TradeStation very much in the room, I wanted to go ahead and show TradeStation. I've got it set up for the Forex charts. So let me drag it over real quick. And the difference really, the major difference, excuse me, between TradeStation and NinjaTrader, and the same applies to multi-charts and NinjaTrader, is the fact that in multi-charts and TradeStation we have either the radar screen or the market scanner, so we can actually monitor all the time frames in one screen. Okay, Larry, you're asking if I have the symbols for the DAX or the FTSE in TradeStation. I do not. Because I mainly use NinjaTrader, I don't keep a lot of data on TradeStation. I do have the Forex coming through, and that's pretty much it. Because I've pretty much gone over to NinjaTrader only because of the delta. And I keep TradeStation in cases of emergency. I can go to it, or multi-charts, either one. So what I want to show you is what the radar screen, and if you're using multi-charts, this looks the same in multi-charts. We have the symbol column, and then we have the interval. So you can see I've got a 1, a 3, a 12, and a 45. These are my standard go-to time frames, okay? The reason is simple. I want to know that if I need to go to get me a cup of coffee, okay, I've got 60 seconds to do it. Or I have 3 minutes, or I have 12 minutes before the bar ends. That's why I chose actual time-based charts. So we have a 1, a 3, a 12, and a 45. The next column comes from the trend ATR. This is the version 2. You can see that we have the previous trend, the current trend. We also have ticks to the ATR. So I can actually scan down here and say, okay, the USD Swiss franc is 1 tick away from the ATR on the 1 minute chart if there was a trade there. The next column that we have is the congestion column, and it simply tells us if a market is in congestion. For example, I took a trade this morning on the DAX, excuse me, where the 3 minute was in a congestion area. So being able to identify very easily which markets are in congestion for range-based trading works very nicely. Okay, we then have the wide bar. Now, anytime price makes a wide bar, and you see it right here on the Euro US dollar, it is a yellow price bar. On NinjaTrader, it's magenta because we use a white background, okay? So that tells me that at least 80% of the time, these wide bars retrace, okay? So I would not want to be going into a trend that has had a wide bar. Does everyone understand that one? Now, on the next column, I have the ADX. The only thing I actually look at there is the color. Bright blue tells me it's trending to the upside. Bright red tells me it's trending to the downside. If it is over 50, and this is the only time I'm looking at numbers here, over 50 tells me that it is magenta in the histogram, okay? So anything that is above 70 tells me that it is overbought. For example, right now, the British pound US dollar is at 73. So I know that that is overbought at the moment, and we will probably get a pullback on the 1 minute chart. Now, anybody that's trading Forex knows that you can't trade a 1 and a 3 minute chart because you have this pip spread that you have to deal with. For example, on the Euro US dollar, typically there's a pip in, there's a pip out. So that means it's $10 in, $10 out. That's the cost of that trade. But we can do it on the binaries. And I'll tell you right now, I love them on the binaries. Okay? The trading methodology is exactly the same. We're looking for price to be at either a congestion dot or an ATR. ATR is that plus sign that you see on my chart. Okay? So the trading methodology doesn't change, but we're able to trade smaller time frames because we're doing it on options that expire. I do mine where it expires at the top of every hour. Okay. Then we have the ADX peak column. For example, right now on the British pound, I just said that more than likely we're going to get a magenta peak on the British pound US dollar. Okay. You see that the magenta peak just came in. Okay. So this tells me it's probably going to retrace back to the ATR, and the ATR is about 24 ticks from price. Good morning, Alan. How are you? Now, on this one, you see, instead of the futures, I have the actual symbols. For example, the USD Swiss franc is going down. The Aussie dollar is going up. The USD JPY is going up, but it's getting a little bit of weakness in there. The Aussie dollar is going up. The Swiss franc yen's going up. The British pound US dollar is going up. The euro yen is actually going up. It's actually behind the Swiss franc yen. The euro British pound is starting to go back down. This would be what we would consider, for those of you that have taken my classes, this would be like an Otis trade, okay? And then the euro US dollar is going up, okay? Does everybody understand that? And actually the euro US dollar is going up because the ADX has been really oversold on all of the lower time frames. I think at one point this morning on NinjaTrader it was like 94 on the 3-minute chart, so it has been, well, you can see it here. It was very, very high on both the 3 and the 12, so we are actually starting to get a pullback on the euro US dollar. Now let's go over and look at the chart indicators in TradeStation, and you can see they pretty much look the same as they do in Ninja. You have the trend and you have the ATR that is above price or below price. The only difference is because we use a black background in TradeStation, I turned the bars white when they get close enough to the ATR. Okay, so instead of gray, we're looking at white. There is an input that you can change it. You can change it if you use Western style candlesticks. You can actually plot this as dots with the ATR. I give you a lot of options within the indicators. These white dots that you see on price are actual reversal bars. Anytime you see a reversal bar like these are, you would expect the price to go in that direction, the direction that it closes in, for at least the next couple of bars. So here you would say, okay, it should go down for the next couple of bars. Here it should go down the next couple of bars. Here should go down the next couple of bars. We also have the congestion dots, and this is when price closes above the ATR, but it does it without a lack of conviction. So that means that yes, technically it flipped the ATR, but it didn't do it with passion, okay? So because it had no passion, we give you the congestion dots up here. If it cannot break these congestion dots, and this is a great example here, normally it will touch the congestion dots, but then it will continue down, okay? So the only time that you could potentially take trades when you see this line of white dots is when it's at the ATR or it's at the congestion dot. You typically do not trade in between that. Do y'all understand that? Now directly beneath that we do have the ADX indicator, and as you can see, anytime you see these magenta bars, you know that you are in a strong trend, okay? When you get a magenta peak And I want to point out a magenta peak is a pointed top, sort of like a mountain peak. We're expecting price to retrace to within 5 ticks of the ATR on a 3-minute chart. Now, the problem came in is, okay, what about a 12-minute? What's that magical number? What about a 45-minute? What's the magical number? We don't have to worry about that now because anytime it gets close enough, no matter what the time frame is, then you get a white price bar or a gray price bar in NinjaTrader. Right, Dan. It's without conviction. I probably said it wrong. My mind's going a little bit too fast this morning. I'm trying to slow it down, but it hasn't worked yet. Okay, does everybody understand that so far? Anytime, for example, here, it did close above the ATR, okay? But this is what I would term mathematical noise. We have to cut it off somewhere, you know? So we have to cut it off at the close above the ATR in the code. But if it does not continue up, that tells us there is a lack of conviction. So it will probably go back down. Does that clarify it, Dan? All right. Now I'm going to switch over and we're going to look at NinjaTrader. I do not have the market analyzers up because I wanted to show TradeStation and it would take too much resources from the computer. Let's see. Let's start with the DAX this morning because I already have it up. I was trading the DAX this morning. It has some nice trades on it. Number one, the 1440 is moving up. The ATR is below it, okay? So to me, this is in an uptrend. You go down to the 720, it is still in an uptrend. It's bounced off the ATR. ADX is still going up. So these two time frames are saying that we are in an uptrend on the DAX. When you come down to the 180, you see that it's still below price on the ATR. So to me, this is also still in an uptrend. The one that changes the picture on the DAX is the 45-minute chart. We did have a magenta peak here, and price is now pulling back to the ATR, which is currently at 99.85. Right now, knowing that I have the magenta peaks coming in on the 45, to me that tells me I would be going short on the 3-minute chart. Now, what has to happen? First, this ATR has to go from blue to red because the ADX is blue. Does everybody understand that? The ATR is blue. So this is going to create a small counter trend trade on the 3-minute chart. Price flips the ATR, then it comes back to test the ATR. When it comes back to test this ATR that is red, which is the opposite color of our 45-minute ATR, we can look at the volume. If it is diverging, it gives us an entry into the downtrend. So in this case, at the close of that bar, you could have entered this downtrend. Does everybody understand that one? What if you missed this entry because you just got up or you ran out to get a cup of coffee? You had another entry right here. Does everybody understand that entry? Now, this is not one I would anticipate staying with the entire day. Why? Because it's retracing back to the ATR on the 45-minute chart. The ATR on the 45-minute chart is at 99.85. You can come over to the 3-minute and put a line on the chart at that value. Now, let me shrink that up a little bit. The ATR moves with price. A lot of people say it breathes with price, which I would agree with them. It does, because it's based on the range of price. That means it's constantly monitoring the high to the low, okay? And then we add a standard deviation to that. I was kind of surprised over the weekend that someone didn't understand we had a standard deviation in the ATR. It's part of the algorithm, okay? So as this price is moving down, the ATR could actually move up towards price. So do not anticipate trying to take 99.85 exactly. A better way to do that would be to move this line up just a little bit. So we know we're at 99.85. Why don't we just move it up to about 87? Okay, that's our safe zone. Now, the close of this bar was 99.98.5. Okay, you could set a stop right up above this high at 10,000. So it would be 10,000.5. You entered at 99.98.5. So that's about a 2-point risk, okay? And I think you've made 4 points now. Yeah, because it went below 94. Does everybody understand that? Your stop at this point on this trade would be what? Break even. Any questions? It's already set in the algorithm, Andreas. I use a 1.25 standard deviation. Does everybody understand that trade setup? I traded the DAX. They're on the blog. I did a 5 o'clock expiration, which was way back here. I believe that it would close under 10,000. Yeah, it expired at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. The binary, well, my line is still on there. The binaries actually had a price available at 10,004, Humphrey. So I sold that, which is why you see this line here, and collected the premium on that one. And then I did another one at 6 o'clock. The one at 6 o'clock I waited until the very last minute. It was the last 5 minutes. That's when the probabilities actually skewed that it was going to close above 98.98. So I took that one too. We did have a really nice binary trade on the Euro US dollar. And I didn't get into it because I was documenting my trades and posting the intraday updates. But where's my 12-minute? I think I've got it covered up. Yeah, here's the 12-minute. So you can see at approximately 7:36 you got this magenta peak in here, okay? So you could have went down to the 1 minute to see if that was going up to close above the expiration. And that would have been on this chart, and the magenta peak came in at 748. This is the test of the ATR here. So you would have to see what they had available at that time, and I don't know. So I can't tell you. I can't go back and look, but that's the one that I would have taken. I knew that was coming in because all of the ADXs were so oversold this morning on the euro. Then you could have turned around after 8 o'clock and done one to the downside. Okay, let's go through the ES now. The ES, the Nasdaq, and the Dow are kind of all doing exactly the same thing. The only difference is the Nasdaq and the ES are overbought on the 1440. Then on the 720, it's not really overbought. You do have a value of 58.63. When you look to the 180, you see that you've had the magenta peak come in. It's retracing back to the ATR at 1942. I would be waiting to see if this comes up here to test the ATR at 1948.5. If it does, and if it has diverging volume, I would take a short position. Does everybody understand that? Right now you can see it's really not moving. You do have a row of congestion dots at 1948, and then a point under that you have an ATR. Okay, this is not one that I would actually take a trade on right now. I would let it line up first. And the Nasdaq, pretty much exactly the same. Not seeing a lot of differences between the indices today. I didn't look at the Russell though. So you have the 1440 is moving up. It is overbought. You have the 720 is moving up. It is not overbought. It's just trending upwards. The 180, you do have a magenta peak. It should pull down towards price at 37.83. This has come to within, let's see, 37.97. It's been within a point of the ATR. You're also seeing on the 12-minute, it needs to flip this ATR. Now remember, if you're using a Buddha trade, it would be between the 180 and the 12-minute. So this ATR needs to flip at this point. Then it needs to go back and test it. Once it tests it on the verging buying volume, you could enter a short. Does everybody understand that? It's the same trade that I explained on the DAX. It's just between the 180 and the 12-minute. Any questions on that one, guys? Do we need more coffee this morning? Well, I've already drank my pot of coffee for the day. Okay, now, because we're going into the 3-minute, into the U.S. session, you could also wait for this to be flipped and then take a short position on the 3-minute as well. Really, Mike? Has anybody else had trouble getting into the room? Did it give you any kind of reason, Mike? If it continues, Mike, send me an email and I'll send it to go to a meeting and ask them what's going on. Now, some of you may notice this little line I have on this chart that tells me what the expiration would be. It's one that me and my programmer are actually working on so that I know where the price expiration is set to expire. And I only look at that at the top of the hour, and it only works on the live edge of the market. Okay. All right, let's go have a look at the Dow this morning. And again, all of these are pretty much the same. The only difference is that the Dow is not overbought like we saw on the ES and on the Nasdaq. You do see that both the 720 and the 1440 are trending up. You see that the 180 does have a magenta peak coming in on it. Should retrace back to 16879. If you go down to the 12-minute, it's flipping the ATR right now. It should come back and test the ATR, and then you could take a trade to the downside. Watch it and put the value of the ATR on your trading time frame, because when it gets there, it may bounce to the upside. You may also get another magenta peak come in on the 720. Okay, that doesn't mean it will not bounce from this ATR. You still more than likely will get a bounce. Okay, so these are the things that you really need to watch out for today with the ATR of 16879. Watch that level and watch the congestion dot at 16907. The reason I tell you to watch the congestion dot, a lot of you know that sometimes we get these magenta peaks that do not fully retrace to the ATR. The congestion dot is what prevents it from doing it. It's one of the reasons that we added the congestion dot in. Okay, so keep an eye on both of these levels today. I'm just going to put them on the chart for you so you can see. Now, you could transfer these onto your 3-minute or whatever time frame that you've chosen to trade. Does everybody understand that? ATRs are very, very strong. If you have questions about my ATR, I did a really good presentation for Traders World. And if you go to tradersworldexpo.com, I think it is, and just look for the ATR presentation. I think it's available all this month, if I'm not mistaken. And it really teaches you how strong the ATR can act as support or resistance depending on which way it's moving. Now let's go have a look at gold today. Gold today we do have to me this is very significant today because we have a magenta peak that is on the daily. This is a very strong magenta peak typically. That means that it should go up to about 1266. The first thing that I would do on my chart is actually mark this value, and again I'm going to give it a little bit of room, so I'm going to mark it at 1264. Okay, if it gets to this area you could see a return to the downside. Okay, the next thing that would be marked on my chart is this ATR that is on the 720. It's at 1256.5. Now, in this case, you don't have to give it any room. Why? Because it's already there, guys. Okay? It's not going to pull down anymore. Price is sitting there. You can see on the 12-minute chart, and this really kind of highlights what happens. Do you see how it did go to this area and now it's closed down, that does not mean it will not break it. What it does mean is it's looking for an area that will support price to continue up. If it does not find that area, price will come down. Understand? Would I look at a weekly on gold and Nadex where you have a magenta peak on the daily? Normally I would. This is one case because it's from last week, Dan. No, I would not. Because I think this one, if it's going to complete, it's going to complete either today or tomorrow. Probably today. Does that answer your question, Dan? Now, remember I said normally if the retracement is not going to continue, you will get congestion dots on the next lower time frame. Right now we have no congestion dots on the 720. If I look up to the 180, do you see how it broke this ATR with conviction? I mean, they were really eager to take gold up. Do y'all see that? So this is not one where you're really going to get a line of gray dots because they did it with conviction. Now, if you go down to the 45-minute, you see that they broke this ATR, a lack of conviction. They have come back to the congestion dots, which happens to coincide with the ATR on the 720. Look at your ADX. It's at 67.79. What would I look at this and say? It's going to retrace back down to 1253, and I need to read the volume when it gets there. Does everybody understand that one? It is very, very predictive, which I think is why I love trading Nadex so well, because we can actually tell where price is going, what price should do. Which time frame for volume at 1253? You're going to have to read it on the 45-minute chart because it's going to be testing the ATR on the 45-minute chart. One thing that everybody in this room that follows my methodology needs to realize, the lower time frames are not dominant. The higher time frames are typically dominant, okay? Does everybody understand that one? Yeah, always read it from the 45-minute if that's where the test is coming. Is there room to short here if you get the magenta peak in? And I know it's in because it's already taken out this low. Sure. Come right down here to the 3-minute. Okay. It has to flip the ATR, has to come back and test the ATR, which is done. It will come back and test it again because it had the wide bar. And I would be looking at the options. I would be looking for a price around 1257. Do you understand that, Dan? And I did really nice articles this morning on the trades that I did on the DAX, especially the first one, only because I said, okay, basically this is what we had, 45, 12, 3, and Nadex all saying it was going down. You want to be at least at 1257 would be my take on it, Dan. because remember, it will come back and it will test this ATR. And don't do it now because you want to see the volume as it's coming back to test it. Now, one thing about, if you're trading the Nadex binaries, I really want to point out, is the U.S. session opens up a whole world of prices. Normally during London and during Asia, you only have 2 price groups. But during the U.S. session, you get a lot more expansion of option prices. So does everybody understand that? All right, let's go have a look at crude this morning. Okay, crude is bouncing up from the ATR, right at an ATR on the 720. You can get a test of the 45-minute ATR in gold before it bounces. Let me go back to gold. Gold has, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it had a magenta peak on it. Yeah, you do. You have a magenta peak already, so you know you're coming down to 1253.6 gig. Yeah, I lost my internet for a minute. Can everybody hear me now? Yeah, they reset the IP address, I guess. Okay, see how this is coming down to this ATR, so you're expecting it to come down to 1253 gig. This is where we would be looking on the 3-minute. I wasn't looking at the chart here, so I couldn't have called that trade. I think it will still, well, it's going to be at the ATR before it does, though. You're going to have to wait for it to get to the ATR at this point, gig. Yeah. No, wait for it to come back to the ATR over here, gig, and then you could take a binary to the upside if you see diverging volume there. Andreas, you're asking, isn't it better to use different ATR standard deviation markets because they have different movements? But wouldn't those different movements be encompassed in the ATR by itself because it's measuring the difference between the high and the low, Andreas? Because it's based on price already, it's already taken into consideration the different movements. That's why I like the ATR. When you have a indicator that's already taken into consideration the price movement, usually you're on the right track. I hope I know them, considering I designed them. That was funny. The thing of it is, everybody has heard that volume is leading indicator, right? Everybody says that. Volume is a leading indicator. So why don't we use it as a leading indicator? Your higher time frames are leading indicators when you know how to use them. That's what the advantage is with the options, okay? Because the Nadex options tell you the probability within the price itself, and then we have leading indicators and leading time frames. When you put all that together, you have really good trades once you learn how to read them. Does everybody understand that? Okay, so I don't think we went through crude. Let's go through crude real quick because it looks like it may bounce down from this ATR, okay, because this is saying up, this is saying down. Those are warning signs, okay? Then you have this says up and this says up. Which way do you go? Well, right now, the only thing I could do would be to actually wait because your ADX is at 71 on the 45-minute. What is 71? Overbought. That means, and I teach you how to do this when we do the seminars and the webinars. If this comes down to about here, that magenta peak is coming in. NinjaTrader does not update it intra-bar, but I know if it touches this line, I'm going to have a magenta peak, and that means it's going to come down another about 30 cents down to 103.04. This is going to pull up a little bit, so you better calculate 103.10. That tells me I'm only going to get approximately one clipper level. Now, if you come over to the 3-minute, do you see how it flipped the ATR already? Okay, it's at the congestion dot. I want it to bounce up here. That then gives me a higher percentage to take clipper 2 there, because if I enter at 103.5 and it's going to come down to 103.10, I could potentially get 2 clipper levels. Does everybody understand that one? And this is what I look at all the time. This is why I tell you, when you're just starting, just put them on your charts. They're, you know, put a line on your chart. That's easy to do. This is the potential right here. Okay? Now, what would I want to do? I want it to come right back to this ATR, and this ATR is going to move down, okay? Do you see how you're getting potentially divergence? That's not definitive, it's potential. The bar has not finished. It does not finish until another 60 seconds approximately, okay? So this is giving you divergence. This is going to start the pullback to here. Everybody with me so far, guys? Yes, no, maybe? When it does that, if there is a divergence in buyers, in other words, as it's pulling back to this ATR, it's making highs, right? And I'm going to highlight this because you might not know. Let's do it with rectangle. So if it starts to pull back, I'm actually going to look at the highs back to this ATR. Remember, the volume bars will be blue. If you see that the volume is going down as it approaches the ATR, that's your entry point. And that's how we zero in on pulling back to the ATR. Everybody see that? And of course, the magenta peak here is probably going to push it up there. They all work together, literally. Okay? Now, let me go over the other one that I have that I absolutely love now because I'm trading a lot of Forex, is the currency meter in NinjaTrader. We look at a period of 9, Mike, and then do a standard deviation of 1.25. Okay? But then it has a trend algorithm in there too, so. And that's what causes it to flip from red to blue too. All right. Now the currency meter, this is measuring the RSI value of all the currency futures on a 45-minute time frame. So I know all of them are measured against the dollar, and I have the dollar index on here, okay? So you see that the dollar is going up and the euro is coming down. Would you like to see what that means? I'll show you right now. That is what it means. The euro is weak. The euro is the red line. The dollar is the green line. The dollar was strong. The euro was weak. So what happened? It went down. Do you see the white line is the Swiss franc? Want to see what happened on the Swiss franc? Now remember, and this is where you'll get confused because this is futures, okay? What do you expect to see on the USD Swiss franc? What's the first symbol in USD Swiss franc? It's the US dollar, correct? That means you're going to be going long. Does everybody understand that? Usually you get really good, you get really good movement when they're crossing, Dan. Now, the benefit of doing it this way, guys, is let's say that you're trying to trade the euro yen. Was today a good day to trade the euro yen? Not the best day, because you see the yen is weak. The euro is weaker, but the yen's not really strong. Okay, I don't trade those. That's why I wasn't trading it this morning. I love the euro yen. Love to take those trades. But this showed me, hey, the yen is not as strong as I would like. I'm not going to bother with it. I want the ones that are like this. The dollar is heading straight up and the euro's coming down. Swiss franc's coming down. It's very easy to read. And this is not comparing the euro to all the other euro pairs, because all the other euro pairs don't have the same weight, is my belief. I want to see pure euro against the dollar. What is it doing? Last night during Asia, I went to trade. I opened it up, I was going to trade, I'll put it that way. And when I looked at the meter, I said, nope, tonight's not the night, because this is what we were looking at. Do you see any market in there that had strength or weakness? No. Ain't going to touch it. FXCM, Dan, has a special deal if you have an account with FXCM. I can't remember all the details to it. Now, you can order Kinetic, which is what I have my Forex coming through Kinetic. But for the volume, I actually prefer to read the future volume. And it doesn't bother me if it's an inverse pair or not. But you have to understand the inversion to do that. and all of the meter is based on the currency. Actually the euro US dollar is the best one to show the example of. Well, I'll show you both of them. Let me unlink this one and change it to 3 minutes. Okay, this is the euro. I can't talk this morning. This is the USD Swiss franc. Okay, so I'm going to unlink this one and I'm going to go to the Swiss franc future. What's happening? Okay, it's an inverse, right? Again, you have to go back to your meter. Okay, if you're looking at the USD Swiss franc, what is the first symbol? It's the dollar, correct? The Swiss franc is the second in the pair. So that means that if this line is going down and the dollar is going up, you should see the Swiss franc coming down because it's the second one in the pair. The first one, which is the dollar, is strong. It's going to go up. The futures are always measured against the dollar, okay? So in this case, the Swiss franc should be coming down. Now, if I think the Swiss franc is going to go down, and I'm trading the currency futures here, okay, what do I want to do? I want to see, as it approaches the congestion dots, I want to see diverging buying volume. Again, if you're taking a microscopic view of this to the congestion dots, you're looking at the highs as it came back to the congestion dot. So in this case, you're going to read the blue volume bar, and we've made this real easy because we colored it for you. And is this one higher than the green dot? Yes, it is. I'm going to read it there. Do we have divergence? Yes, we do. So this would be a short on the currency future Swiss. Everybody understand that? Any questions on that? I'm in rare form this morning. If you have some questions, just throw them out there. I'll be happy to answer them. Now, what I like about it, it promotes logical thinking, and I'm all about logical thinking. All right, let's go look at that one. Pam said the ES is moving down, so I want to see it. Yeah, I think it missed it by, God, 3 ticks is what it missed it by. Anytime y'all see the volume this way, what you have to do is just shrink the chart down literally, because the volume, because we're using the overnight, will get skewed like that because of the scaling. There's not much we can do about it. We're trying a couple of different things, but so far it hasn't worked. So again, taking a microscopic view as this was coming back to here, okay, we're going to highlight this. Which one are blue volume bars? Here's a blue volume bar, here's a blue volume bar. This is an outside bar that made both a high and a low. What does that bar tell you? It tells you that sellers stepped into the market. Does everybody understand that? That is probably absolutely correct, Pamela. I love probabilities, especially when we can put numbers to it. And you know that it fascinates me because with Nadex you can actually put that number to it. Pam, where did you get that number at? Somebody in the room wants to know. Is her own research on outside bars? Yes, she's really good, Dan. You know, one of the reasons that I colored the volume bar according to price action was because it's very hard to be looking at price bars and volume at the same time. It works pretty well too, don't it? You know, you can miss trades because sometimes, well, is it really higher? And you're comparing the volume, and it just made sense for me to see the price action within the volume indicator itself. Plus, we added the delta, and in this case, the delta was very, very strong. Not only did it price made a high, it also made a low, but the delta actually got stronger across these low bars, which is pretty significant. It tells you that sellers are really stepping in on that bar. And Pam, I would just about bet you said it's 83% chance, higher probability that it will take out the low. I just about bet the only time that it takes out the high is when the delta goes to the upside. That would be something to research. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I would just about bet that's when it goes against the probabilities. Because they came in, well, let me shrink it back down so you can see. Do you see how the delta was here at 847? And let me show you something else because, again, somebody told me this weekend they didn't realize they could do this. If you hold your cursor over here and look at this data box, look at all of the buying information, okay? So on this bar here, you had 5,471 sellers in it, okay? On this one, it shrank down to 2,322. That told me they're going to go back and test for buyers, okay? On this bar, there was 1,967 buyers and 1,578 sellers, okay? The delta finished at 389. That's where the limit orders were on the delta. Okay, now we move over here. It's increased. Oop, it moved on me. Sorry about that. It's increased to 2,042. In the delta managed to finish at 493. Okay, this is where the big one comes in. You have buying volume 2,061, but sellers stepped in for a total of 3,000. Okay. There was 3,000 more sellers in that bar at that point. Do y'all understand that? So between here with the volume of 2,042, only 1,500 sellers. Here it was still 2,000 buyers, but what happened on the seller side? They more than doubled. That is absolutely correct, Diane. Would I have been long here on the options, Dan? I wouldn't do it on the options because at 4:30 in the morning, you can't do the options on gold because it ends at 2 o'clock. It's too far away. So I couldn't have done one until 8 o'clock. Okay, this is your 8:15 bar. Are you at the congestion dot? You don't have an entry. So I guess feasibly, and let's go back and look at the volume. Feasibly, you could have been long here. Let's see, the congestion dot is 1945. No, you couldn't. You'd have had 20 ticks of risk there. There's no way you could have taken that. You could have gone down maybe to a 3-minute, but not off of 45-minute. Do you understand that now, Dan? Okay. Any questions? Because I do have to actually close the room. I have an appointment at 10 o'clock, so I've got to go get ready. If you do have any questions, please email me. Pretty flexible with my time and try to answer all the emails. Gig, I'm going to send that to your Gmail account because it's stripping it for some reason. And I don't know why it's doing that, but as soon as I close the room, I'll send it to your Gmail. If you don't get it, let me know, and I'll resend it again, or I'll put it up on the website and give you a link to download it, or we'll get it done somehow. For those that are in the room, we are having a Kickstarter trading session that starts next Monday. It goes from 1 to 4, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for 2 weeks. And it's available on the website. I hope everyone has a wonderful day trading, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Same time, same place. Thanks, Larry.